Daughter Young-suk was eating when her mother, Jao-K, suddenly grabbed her hair. Before Young-suk could react, Jao-K immediately dragged her forcefully down to the basement. What followed was Young-suk's torture session. Jao-K first covered her body with incense ashes, then took out a bell, swinging it while silently chanting exorcism spells. Once everything was ready, Jao-K immediately began lashing her wildly with a willow branch. No matter how heart-wrenchingly Young-suk screamed and wailed, Jao-K remained expressionless and showed no sign of stopping. Young-suk had endured this miserable and unfortunate life for a full 20 years, because Jao-K was superstitious about feng shui, and since Young-suk was always getting into fights, Jao-K believed she was possessed by an evil spirit. If not driven out, many people would die because of it later. Only when Young-suk was beaten into convulsions, barely alive, did Jao-K finally stop. However, as she stepped forward to check if the exorcism had succeeded, she sensed that the evil spirit had not only stayed but had become even more ferocious and bloodthirsty. Later, after so-called calculations, Jao-K learned the feng shui here couldn't suppress the evil spirit, so she gathered her talismans and ritual tools, deciding to sell the house and find a new place with perfect feng shui. Battered and scarred Young-suk, severely brainwashed by Jao-K into believing she caused misfortune, rarely went out and often called her neighbor Sunheat to vent. However, Young-suk never expected that this day, her call was suddenly answered by a woman with short hair. At first, she thought she had dialed the wrong number, but no matter how many times she called afterward, it was always Seo-yeon who answered. Even more incredibly, after talking, they discovered they both lived at the exact same address, and the house structure and layout were identical. The only difference was that Young-suk's house had a basement, while Seo-yeon's did not. But later, Seo-yeon broke open the spot Young-suk described as the passageway and actually discovered a pitch-black staircase, when she cautiously went down to the basement and found an old cardboard box stored for years. Inside, besides ritual tools used by a feng shui master, she also found a diary detailing Young-suk's suffering at Jao-K's hands. Then she pulled out a photo of Young-suk. The date on the photo and the diary entries were both from 1999. Even more shocking, when Young-suk called the next day pleading for help, the ordeal she described matched the diary exactly. Meanwhile, Jao-K was attempting to drive the evil spirit out of Young-suk using a torch. Hearing this, Seo-yeon seemed to realize something. Earlier, she had returned home to find her cell phone missing, so she dug out the old landline phone. From then on, she kept receiving Young-suk's calls, combining the diary, Young-suk's recent distress call, and them sharing the same address. Seo-yeon came to a bold conclusion. When Young-suk called again, Seo-yeon asked her the date and confirmed Young-suk, living in 1999, was calling into 2019. This meant Seo-yeon in 2019 was talking to Young-suk from 20 years in the past. At first, Young-suk didn't believe it, but when she saw the plane crash news Seo-yeon predicted the very next day, she became convinced. After that, they not only became close friends sharing everything, but their life stories were remarkably similar, both having lost their fathers in childhood. Back then, Seo-yeon's father bought this very house but died in a gas leak explosion before they could move in. Her napping father died protecting Seo-yeon. 8-year-old Seo-yeon only suffered leg burns, while her mother Une, out grocery shopping, was unharmed. Just as they were confiding in each other, Jao-K suddenly knocked on the door. When Young-suk went out to check, she found it was a real estate agent showing Seo-yeon's family the house. Young-suk first greeted the 8-year-old Seo-yeon, then spoke to Seo-yeon on the phone again.
아따, 그러게 네 집이 최고지?
뽀뽀다.
알았어, 가자. 마당에서 봤어?
Hearing her father's voice talking, she was immediately overwhelmed, crying uncontrollably.
용수가 내가 아니.
Before Seo-yeon could speak, Young-suk voiced exactly what she was thinking.
내가 말이야 아주 재밌는 생각이 하나 났거든?
너희 아빠를 내가 다시 살릴 수도 있지 않을까?
2 days later, Young-suk seized the moment while Jao-K was feeding the chickens and slipped out. When she arrived at Seo-yeon's house, she indeed saw Une had gone shopping without turning off the stove. As Young-suk unlocked the door, massive changes instantly occurred for Seo-yeon. Her missing phone suddenly reappeared, and then the burned scars on her leg vanished. Since Seo-yeon's father had always been alive, their financial situation changed. Not only was the house redecorated, but Seo-yeon also had stylish, permed long hair, and even Une, previously hospitalized, now looked radiant. However, precisely because Seo-yeon now had her family, she neglected her friendship with Young Suk. Young Suk later tried calling several times, but Seo-yeon never answered. She was either dining with her parents or out shopping, which made Young Suk furious. Seo-yeon was living happily, while Young Suk was still forced to eat dozens of different herbs daily by Jao K. So when Seo-yeon finally picked up the phone, Young Suk didn't hold back. She went straight into a harsh lecture.
뭐 하는 거야?
어?
다시 전화 달라며.
To repay Young Suk's kindness, Ruian searched for information about Young Suk online and found news reports saying that she would be killed by Yagu tomorrow, and that Yagu was not her biological mother, but her adoptive mother. Due to the time travel, calls could only originate from Young Suk's side, so Seo-yeon could only wait silently. Fortunately, Young Suk called again the next day and learned she was about to face mortal danger. Meanwhile, at a nearby supermarket, Jaeok spotted Sun-hee curled up in a corner and found out that Young Suk had burned her left leg. In Jao K's view, the evil spirit inside Young Suk was uncontrollable, and if not stopped immediately, it would soon cause killings. So that very night, while Young Suk was asleep, Jao K decisively took a dagger from the fish tank and went to Young Suk's room, wildly stabbing at the blanket. By the time Jao K realized something was wrong, Young Suk was already standing behind her holding a fire extinguisher. Young Suk then picked up the dagger from the floor and pinned Jao K down.
왜 죽였어? 왜 죽였냐고! 대답 달라고
Strangely, Young Suk felt no anxiety or fear about killing. She then called Seo-yeon, lying that she just had an unpleasant argument with Jao K. Nothing dangerous had happened, and told Seo-yeon not to worry. After that, Young Suk let herself go completely. She first went to a fried chicken shop for a big meal, then saw a women's clothing store and bought all the clothes she liked to take home. Although Young Suk didn't really know how to match clothes, she felt incredibly excited just wearing them. Neighbor Song-ho brought her some strawberries he grew to taste, but her mind was full of clothes. Not only did she not thank him, but she also asked him which outfit looked better before running into the bedroom by herself, leaving the serious Song-ho very embarrassed. He wanted to put the strawberries in the fridge and leave, but accidentally dropped a black plastic bag. When he went to pick it up, he saw a pool of blood seeping out. Seeing the hair and fingers inside, he was so terrified he collapsed to the floor.
이게 뭐야?
그걸 왜 열어요?
As Young Suk picked up the fire extinguisher again, it meant Song-ho was also packed into those black plastic bags. However, not long after, the police began visiting houses about the missing Song-ho. Luckily, they didn't enter, just took a statement before moving to the next house, which made Young Suk think of something. She then called Seo-yeon, wanting to know about her own future. She didn't know that after their last phone call, the suspicious Ruian checked Young Suk's future and was shocked to discover that Young Suk was the serial killer who murdered Sayu and Song-ho. At the time, she couldn't believe it, so she went to Song-ho's greenhouse to verify. She found that the greenhouse, vibrant just yesterday, now looked abandoned for many years. Later, she went to the police station to inquire, but because history had been rewritten, the police record stated that Song-ho had been dismembered by Young Suk 20 years prior, and Young Suk had consequently received a life sentence. Moreover, on her way home, Seo-yeon happened to meet Sun-hee, whom Young Suk mentioned in the first call. Upon asking, she incidentally learned that Sun-hee's leg injury was also caused by Young Suk. Although Seo-yeon pointed out Young Suk's cruel actions, Young Suk didn't care at all. She only cared about how the police had found her out. But Seo-yeon realized that since Young Suk could even hurt her good friend Sun-hee, helping her escape blame might pose a threat to herself later, so the conflicted Seo-yeon chose silence, which provoked Young Suk's anger.
누가 사람이 얘기하고 있는데 전화를 끊어 이***라. 지 아빠 살려준 은혜를 모르고 이*** 년이 좀 사람 도와달라는데 개 같은 년이.
After hanging up, Seo-yeon immediately unplugged the phone line, deciding that if Young Suk was arrested, her happy life wouldn't be ruined. Just when Young Suk felt helpless, she suddenly heard a knock at the door. Expecting the police, she was surprised to see Seo-yeon and her father instead, since the realtor couldn't reach Jao K to sign the house purchase contract. The father had Unei wait at the realtor's office while he brought Seo-yeon to pick up Jao K for the signing. This delighted the furious Young Suk. Since you, Seo-yeon, are unkind, don't blame me, Young Suk, for being unjust. First, she lied that Jao K was sleeping upstairs, tricking the father and daughter into entering the house. Then she brought out the familiar fire extinguisher, and when the moment was right, she immediately sprayed it at Seo-yeon's father. Meanwhile, in 2019, the father was teaching Seo-yeon to drive. When she turned to look at him, she saw him dissolving into smoke, and then the car also began turning to dust. In less than a minute, the stylish Seo-yeon with her permed waves returned to her short-haired state. Although Seo-yeon's brief happiness was bought by Young-suk risking being blown up at the time, Seo-yeon didn't consider that. Instead, she blamed all the pain of losing her family on Young-suk. Seo-yeon now shed her indifferent, detached attitude and hurriedly ran home. Because the father in 1999 failed to buy this house, it now had no connection to Seo-yeon. Plus, with the current Young-suk serving her prison sentence, the place had become dilapidated. Not long after, Young-suk called.
있잖아. 함부로 전화선 끊지 말라고. 닭은 목이 잘려도 몸은 꿈틀거리거든. 니네 아빠가 좀 그렇더라. 야,
Seo-yeon still hadn't grasped who held the power. Since Young-suk could kill the 1999 father, she could also kill the young Seo-yeon. So when Seo-yeon learned her younger self was imprisoned, she immediately backed down.
아, 맞다. 생각해보니까 너도 니네 엄마 되게 싫어한다고 하지 않았었나?
Seo-yeon then quickly checked the news and learned a scavenger had found the murder weapon. Police traced Young-suk through DNA on the dagger, but since she didn't know where the scavenger lived, she hatched a plan. She searched through lots of news and finally found a report about a greenhouse exploding at 5 p.m. that day. She lied that the scavenger returned to the greenhouse at 5 p.m., attempting to send Young-suk into a fiery death. Although Young-suk wasn't in mortal danger, she suffered many wounds. Seo-yeon, who had been silently praying, soon received Young-suk's call to make Seo-yeon pay. Young-suk poured scalding hot water onto the young Seo-yeon. Immediately, burns appeared on Seo-yeon's body, and she screamed in agony. This time, Young-suk gave her no chance. If Seo-yeon didn't get the scavenger's address by 10 p.m., she would certainly die. So after the police station closed, the frantic Seo-yeon smashed the office window glass. After half an hour of searching, she found Young-suk's case file and saw the scavenger's address inside. Upon getting the information, Young-suk immediately found the scavenger. She then picked up the dagger from the ground and silenced the witness. As Young-suk destroyed all the evidence, the case file in Seo-yeon's hands gradually faded, and then the house underwent massive changes again, because Young-suk was never caught and had always lived in this house. When Seo-yeon opened her eyes again, she found the first floor filled with refrigerators. Though she didn't open them, given Young-suk's bloodthirsty nature, it was not hard to guess they likely contained black plastic bags. At the same time, in 1999, In-ai couldn't find Ruyan at the real estate developer's office, so she went to In-shu's home to look for them. Since no one answered the door, she reported the incident to the police station. Just as Young-suk returned home, she immediately called the 2019 Seo-yeon, wanting to ask about her future encounters. This time, the call was directly answered by the 2019 Young-suk.
잘 들어. 네가 죽을 수도 있어. 곧 너희 집으로 경찰과 서연 엄마가 찾아갈 거야.
When Young-suk opened her door, it was indeed Eun-ae arriving with police for an investigation. Since Young-suk had hidden the young Seo-yeon in the basement, accessed through a hard-to-find hidden door, Eun-ae only found the young Seo-yeon's hair bow in the living room. Eun-ae then asked to borrow Young-suk's phone to call home, wanting to ask if her husband had returned home with the young Seo-yeon. Meanwhile, as history was rewritten again, the police record in Seo-yeon's hand changed once more. It now stated that Eun-ae had used Young-suk's home phone at this moment. So Seo-yeon decisively returned home and, after searching, discovered the phone in the basement.
엄마?
엄마 당장 그 집에서 나와. 오영숙이 엄마를 죽일 거야. 당장 그 집에서 나와.
여보세요?
아버님이세요?
아니요. 어떤 여자가 받았는데
여자 누구요?
저보고 엄마라고 하면서 당장 이 집에서 도망치라고.
네?
전화기 주세요.
At the same time, the awakened Seo-yeon began desperately fighting for the phone. Since life and death were at stake, they both wanted to know what was happening in 1999, ensuring that upon answering, they could immediately advise the other. After a fierce struggle, Seo-yeon grabbed the phone first and ran upstairs, with Young-suk chasing closely behind. Meanwhile, Eun-ae also got hold of the phone and was running upstairs, similarly being pursued by Young-suk. Both mother and child then hid in bedrooms of the same relative position and locked their doors. Une tried to dial the emergency number, unaware this phone could only connect to Seo-yeon.
제발 빨리 와주세요. 엄마, 일단 진정해. 지금 방 안에 무기가 될 만한 거 있어?
Just as Une prepared to fight back, she suddenly heard the young Seo-yeon crying outside. Without hesitation, she rushed out, picked up her daughter, and comforted her not to be afraid, unknowingly walking right into Young-suk's trap. When Young-suk attacked again to finish her off, Une decisively fought back barehanded. To protect her daughter, she immediately dragged Young-suk into an inner room. Seo-yeon then witnessed the next scene. Young-suk emerged covered in blood, holding the knife, and then locked her target onto the young Seo-yeon. Just as she raised the knife to strike, the barely alive Une suddenly rushed out, tightly grabbing Young-suk, and chose to perish together. Simultaneously, the Young-suk about to strike Seo-yeon with the knife also vanished. To the unaware Seo-yeon, Young-suk's disappearance meant Une had won the battle. Eagerly, she rushed to the hospital, wanting to embrace her critically ill mother immediately. However, when she reached the ward, she found another patient in her mother's bed. She then asked a nurse and learned there was no admission record for Une at all. Only then did she realize that both Une and Young-suk had died in 1999. Seo-yeon's original intention was to bring her father back to life. In the end, she not only lost her mother but the house no longer belonged to her either. This made Seo-yeon understand a truth: to get what you want, you cannot rely on others. Striving through proper channels and hard work is the only way. This story concludes here.